Welcome.
All right, we are live on YouTube.
Fantastic. So all these thousands of people are in now, right? Okay, perfect. And I guess we can start the recording now. Hold on. Hey guys, welcome to Wednesday's uh, call about all things Bank Breezy. And I want to talk to you guys about, I'm not going to do a slideshow today. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of topics. Number one, just the application process in general and what we get on the applications and why it sometimes slows it down, because otherwise, if the application is correct and everything's uploaded properly, I mean, we can move these things through and sometimes in 1 hour and sometimes in 4 hours or 5 hours. And if it comes in at the end of the day or at night, then it'll be about midday. We have all the offers, and then we provide the offers right away when all the other offers come in. We could have placed that application with 4 places, but 4 of our lender partners. I mean, we got over 50, but 4 of our lender partners, or we may have placed it with 17 lender partners. We don't, we look at it and we scrub it for all the things that we know are going to knock it out, like revenue. If revenue is under $5,000, it's not going to get funded. I don't care if they're doing $1 million a month for the last 3 months. And then this month, the last month in July, they did 0. They're going to make them go another 30 days to make sure this is not a permanent thing and them going out of business. So we really work these things very quickly. But let me tell you some things about the application that we look for initially. Is number one, we look at the business name. And if the business name doesn't match the bank statements, then we got way more work to do. So if it's Charlie Johnson is on the application and doing business as Bob's Plumbing, but the application says Bob's Plumbing Corporation Incorporated, we have to make sure that the apps actually match. So we go in and do all this behind the scenes so that we don't have to recontact the client unless, for example, we get a PO box, and sometimes we do on the application. We'll get a PO box, and whether it's on their home address or it's their business address, we can never have PO boxes. We have to have a physical address. That PO box might be a mailing address, but we still have to have physical addresses, and we have to go out and fix that. Then we look at time in business. And if they've been in business, I mean, I got one this week that was in business for right at 3 months, and they actually had 3 months of bank statements because they put money into the account like the last day or the last week of the third month on that first month. And I submitted them, but I knew no one was going to make an offer. Great revenue already. So that would really need to be a month later before it was submitted. Because if we don't have at least 4 months in business, 3 months of bank statements, and a half of 1 month is not going to count. So those are important to us. If they have an ITN number instead of an EIN number, sometimes we won't know. I mean, I can look at it and I know that because I know what ITN numbers start with. And I look at it, I'm going to go ahead and submit it, and then they're going to require, that's going to slow the process, because an ITN means that they may not be a U.S. Citizen. And if they're not a U.S. citizen, we got to have 3 things. If they are, by the way, but they don't have any proof of it, they're going to have to give us something, whether it's a birth certificate or something. But if they get an ITN, most likely they're not going to be a citizen. And what we have to have is a U.S. permanent residence card. If they're, you know what, nothing else will work. No green, nothing works except a U.S. permanent residence card, because none of the funders want to do that. Now, I do have a couple of the funders that are telling me that they're working on how they can go ahead and accept these. I got one that will accept it, but they're not the best offers. So we have to work through that. If they're a sole prop, their bank statements in their personal name and they're using their own social security number, they're going to have to go to Giggle because nobody's going to fund them. We have to have EINs on sole props. You can be a sole prop all day long, but if you're not, if you don't have an EIN with the IRS, then it's going to be very difficult for anyone to even accept that. Again, they will have to go to Giggle. And we have to, another thing that's left off the application a lot of times that will kind of slow it down is the second owner's signature. We have to have that. We have to have the percentages. And most of the time when there's less than 67%, they're going to always ask before we fund it for proof of ownership, so that there's not someone else that can make those kind of decisions with you without, and maybe you're not able as a business owner to enter those kind of agreements. We just make sure that you are the majority, they are the majority business owner. One of the big issues that we have is the amount they're requesting versus, this is the most disappointing thing, by the way, to all reps and really to us. But when I see that, the first thing we see is the application before we look at the bank statements. And the application said they want $50,000 or they want $500,000. And I said, man, this is great. And then you go into the bank statements and you see that they're doing $6,000 a month in revenue. They want 50,000. I'm not, but they're only doing 6,000 on all the A and B paper. We can get up to 200%. Usually it's between 100 and 150%, but on really good paper, we've been getting 200% of what their monthly revenue is. On the C and D paper, which is a lot of it, I mean, a lot of these people, they may be in the trucking business. They're doing 16,000. They want 100,000. Nothing's more discouraging than to see that, because I know we're going to have to do our job to let them know, not right away. We're going to come back to them and say, hey, listen, I know you asked for this, but this is what we're able to do. And some of them shoot for the moon. I heard a rep tell me one time, I just tell them to shoot for the moon. Well, you're doing yourself an injustice, because if they expect 100,000 and they're going to get a $16,000 offer, can't you see how psychologically that's going to mess them up? Even though in their right mind, they can't believe that they're going to get $100,000 worth of funding, when they're only doing 10 or 12,000, because they can't really afford it. I mean, they'd be making all the weekly payments would take up 50 or more percent of their monthly revenue. The real thing, the reality is this: we can fund, as long as the amount that we're going to be giving them in payments, it doesn't exceed 35% of their revenue, we can get them funding. Most of the time on C and D paper, on trucking companies and they're doing under 25 or 50,000 a month, or even really under 50 would be the best way to say it. They're only going to get about 75%, sometimes only 50% if they're doing under 10,000, and they're in the trucking industry. So, I've given you the list of the best types of industries out there, and go back and look at that. And those are the ones you should concentrate on. I know a lot of you do online marketing, and when you do that, you can't control the business type that comes in. But I will tell you, these are the things that I went over today that really slow things down. Whenever they give me a start date that is the same day of the application, I know they just went through it quickly and they made a mistake, and we have to get with them. But that does really stall the process. And then another thing is, whenever we get a file in that's been submitted, I don't know, 2 or 3 times over the last 6 months, that means that you probably bought that lead, or they found you online because they're searching desperately. That example happened this week. I've got a company, since October, they submitted 3 times. They told us what we wanted. 100% of the time we got them what they wanted: 45,000 weekly payments in 1 year. And the credit's not perfect, but it's not bad either. And I've gotten a lot of no A lenders, but a lot of B lenders have made offers, and it's one that's impossible for them to beat. Well, they have turned us down every time. And so it just gets frustrating for lenders when they get the same piece of paper over and over and over again. And a lot of the times I will get emails from lenders that tell me, yeah, we've already received this from 5 other houses like you guys, whether it's an agent sending. Usually that's with 1 or 2 different lenders, because they'll give anybody a contract. They won't fund anybody, but they'll give anybody a contract. And I'll submit stuff to them if we can't find anybody else that'll take them. I think that the hardest part for new reps is understanding that an approval is not going to mean they're going to get funded. An approval means, first of all, they got to accept the deal. Secondly, they cannot have lied to us. Third, they cannot have something hidden in their background in a lot of cases. And then sometimes, and if they're month to date, that's the number one reason that they get killed, is their month to date has no revenue or very little revenue. And sometimes we have to stall it and say, okay, we got to wait to the end of this month so that we can see what your real revenue is. So that's just kind of my take on the application process, and just wanted to let you guys know. I mean, we got these big announcements we're making. I mean, we're opening up that new program with Biddy, and it's going to be, I think, better than ever. And before, we used to do 1,000 apps a day going through there. This is going to be great. And David and I were on with them yesterday, the actual owner of the whole company, along with their whole team. They love us. They want to do business with us. I got another lender that has come back to us and said, listen, you know, they're kind of the lender for all other lenders that you got to be careful who you send your packages to, because a lot of lenders use these lenders to take all their stuff that they don't want to fund. But they are really bumping us up and giving us some really, really good opportunities underwriting wise. And things are getting ready to open up like they used to be when we didn't have an economy like we got. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about where we're heading with all the different I mean, you're going to be able to recruit and find people now like you never have. With David announcing all those licensing products and that sort of thing, programs, and you're going to have a more professional type person that you're going to be able to recruit, and those people are going to have a book of business, and they're going to be elated that they're going to be able to do some funding through the process. And then my final thing I want to say about funding is lines of credit. As I've told you over and over and over again, we can't get lines of credit for property management, trucking, and construction. It's just, we can't get that in this space. If it was available, I'd find it. But everybody else we can. So I've had several times where I had the offer done. The client, I mean, talking about on $200,000 and $300,000 deals, and the client accepted it. And the agent broker came back and said, listen, see if they can do that in a line of credit. They ought to be able to do it. And guess what? Now the deal's dead. They want the line of credit. If I could have gotten them a line of credit, I would have gotten them a line of credit. So all I ask you to do is just stay up to date on training, get your people engaged and trained right away, and feel free to call if you have questions and that sort of thing, and email. And we don't have anything to hide, so we're willing to openly answer any question that you have. So that being said, if you guys have anything that you would like to ask me on regarding funding, I will be glad to answer it while I'm here right now. Do we have anybody, Morgan? We do.
One hand up. It is Ellen. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hey, Wade, thanks for coming on, spending your quality time with us. Hey, a question. You started out talking about if they're using an ITN number and not a citizen, you need 3 things. And I only got one thing out of that. I got that they have to have the U.S. permanent residence card. Was there something else and you just got sidetracked, or did I misunderstand?
No, they're really an ITN. I've got a lot of things I've got to look at. And I got to be able to tell the lender, do they have a U.S. passport? If they do, that answers all questions. If they don't have a US passport, do they have a birth certificate, that shows they were born in the USA? I had to use that for one yesterday. A really big, a $90,000 funding that we did. I had to use the birth certificate, and then they had an expired passport they found somewhere. So I got all that through. But if they are not a U.S. citizen, and whether they're waiting for it to happen or not, if I can't get a U.S. permanent residence card, it looks almost like it looks like a driver's license with a picture and all on it. We're not going to be able to fund that right now. That's just the way it goes.
Okay, great. Thank you much.
Thank you.
We have Matt Dehane. You can go ahead and unmute.
Good morning, Wade. Good morning, everyone. Biddy's instant funding, we're going back with them. Okay. David had mentioned to me that it's 5 to 15,000. This was on last Wednesday's call. He mentioned it.
Well, I don't have all the details that David's ended up with. So he's going to make that announcement and talk to everybody, I guess, soon. But so I don't have, I mean, I know, but I don't think I'm the one that's supposed to be making that announcement. He just said to mention that it's coming. But whatever he says is what it's going to be. But I can tell you that it should be better than before.
Well, okay. My only reason is I thought you would know, but it's up to.
Yeah, I do know, but I do know.
I can repeat what he said. I remember what he said. And my question is regarding what he said, if you can confirm or edit or qualify. But again, I understand the purpose and function and the time consuming of these smaller files that we were willing to give to these other lenders. Now we're just going to go with Biddy. We're going to go back to that for volume purposes. The renewal with them will pay us more. David was saying, if we go with them on a second funding or a renewal, they're going to pay us up near a whole deal, a full commission. Whereas he said with the newer ones, we're going to be paid less significantly on a new funding. Is that
talking about a conversation that I didn't have with you guys? So I'm not talking about commission. I'm not going to get into, because I don't know what he pays on every deal. I mean, I know what he gets and what he receives. David's put that whole thing together himself. So he said, just mention that we're going to open it back up. But just to clarify something, doesn't mean that just Biddy's going to see them. On 10 to 15,000, it may not be that Biddy sends them. They just happen to be the one for that online process, and we may be looking at some of those ourselves with them in the best offer.
All right, another question real quick, and back to the ITIN number. I've got somebody now, in fact, the fellow that started his application has had a business for 12 years in New Jersey, but I know he's not a U.S. citizen. I asked him he doesn't have a president. So you mentioned there's one lender that would accept him possibly, but the rates are high, or is that even worth even trying to send it in?
No, I mean, I got one that we'll look at it. And, I mean, we'll send it in. I don't know what will come of it. I have no idea what will come of it, because I have not tested that they actually will fund those.
All right, we're going to find out probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Or Monday. Great. No worries. No, I'm going to have him send it in. He's, 8 years, no, more than that. 12 years in business. Never got his U.S. citizenship. Probably had a green card. There's a lot of these.
Well, if he's been here that long, wouldn't you think he would have a U.S. permanent resident card?
You would think, but he doesn't.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. No worries, man. Thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, we have one more hand up. Madeline or Madeline, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. It's Madeline. It's okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. So just to piggyback on the I-10, so I have a huge market. I have like a huge market within my tax business that I service IT I-10 holders, and they are U.S. citizens. However, will anything be in Spanish? And I also have like a huge market that don't have I-10. They're just born here. Um, will anything be in Spanish or any Spanish like marketing material or such?
We're at the mercy of the lenders that want us yes or no in Spanish. But I will tell you this, that every one of the lenders have a Spanish speaking staff. So they can talk to them with no problem. We don't have I have actually called and had Nick Dahame help us because he speaks such fluent Spanish, help us with certain things in the past, not very often. But unless the lender themselves launch something in Spanish, they got to be able to understand English and understand the written English contract. And that's the way it is today. I actually was told that one of our lenders are moving into Mexico for lending and that sort of thing. I haven't heard anything else yet about that, but as soon as I do, I mean, I'll be glad. I'll ask questions and I'll be glad to see where we are in it. But as of right now, today, we don't have anything in Spanish, and I don't foresee it coming from anyone before the first of the year. Anything else? Okay. Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate you being on again today. We got a really good crowd here today. So if you have any other questions and you want to send me to Wade at bankbreezy.com.